Hi friends! Today I'm going to walk you through how I drew this blooming Yaohuang peony using markers, from sketching all the way to coloring the final details. Let's start with the sketch. To begin, I loosely map out the overall shape and position of the flower using a Pilot S3 mechanical pencil with a Mitsubishi blue lead. I like starting from the inside petals since they're a little smaller and tighter. When I think about peonies, I imagine the blossom like a bowl. This helps with visualizing the structure. Make each petal feel unique. Vary their size, curve, and angle. The outer petals especially should feel larger and more open. Some even look like water dumplings from this angle. Draw the flower center very roughly, just the tips of the stamens. No need to overdo it. Once I'm happy with the layout, I go back and refine each petal, adding some ruffles and edges to give it that real peony feel. Remember, in real life, no two petals are the same. Sometimes they're imperfect, and that's totally fine. Nature isn't symmetrical. Then comes inking. I highly recommend using a light pad to trace over the sketch for a cleaner outline. I usually go for either mechanical pencil or dip pen. A G nib or round nib gives you some lovely line variation. If you're using a regular pen, make sure to thicken the parts where lines overlap to create depth. Peony petals often have wavy edges and natural splits. Feel free to emphasize that. For the stamens, just focus on the tips. And if your composition feels a little empty, you can always sneak in a few leaves. After that, draw some faint veins on the leaves, very subtle. Then, erase your sketch lines. Now we're ready to color. Let's move on to the coloring. Since I wanted to paint a softer tone blossom, I started with the lightest yellow marker, 174, and used that as a base. Even if you accidentally color the stamens, no worries. It's all in the same color family. Once the base is down, I go over the shaded areas with a slightly deeper yellow. Focus on the base of the petals and where they overlap. We want depth, not flatness. Then, with a more saturated yellow, I go over the same areas, but this time narrowing the range. Think of it like building layers. Don't stress too much about the brush strokes. If you use a bright, saturated color for small accent areas, it'll really help create contrast. To smooth things out, I go back with the lightest yellow to blend out harsh lines and enhance the folds. For petals in the background, I use warm grays to gently mute the tones. Same for the outer edges, it helps push them back visually. To lift some brightness on the petal tips, I use a colorless blender to soften the yellow. Now for the stamens, I start with a bright yellow. Then layer an orange tone over it, leaving the tips lighter. Add darker orange to areas that fall into shadow, especially the middle dips and any stamens that are tucked behind others. Keep tightening the color range for more dimension. You can clean it all up with a warm-toned fine liner or even orange-colored pencil. I'm using a multicolor pen for the stamens. Let's not forget the leaves. Start by blocking in the base with color 167. Darken the base of the leaves with multiple layers, especially along the vein lines. Then switch to a deeper green for shadow areas, focusing on where the light wouldn't hit. Use a slightly warmer green or yellow for the far tips to suggest light filtering through. You can go back and deepen any shadows if needed. Outline the leaves with a pen, or leave it unlined for a softer finish. A touch of white-colored pencil adds a highlight to the edges of the petals, and it really makes everything pop. And here are some key takeaways. Peonies and herbaceous peonies, Yaohuang, are drawn similarly. The main differences are in the plant structure and leaf shape, not the flower itself. Think of a blooming peony like a bowl. Distinguish each petal by varying its size and curvature. Typically, drawing 5 to 6 layers of petals is enough to show a full bloom. Don't forget the waves, folds, and irregularities. The shading process is all about building layers. Start light and slowly deepen, especially around the petal roots and inner folds. And that's it. I hope this tutorial inspires you to try drawing your own soft, blooming peony. Let me know in the comments if you give it a try. I'd love to see your version.